When you think of chemical emergencies, you may think of dystopian movies or nuclear drills from the 60s. But in reality, when the world relies on things like making plastic and refining oil, chemical emergencies happen, and they should be taken seriously. But what happens when you don't know there's an emergency? A little outside of Houston, Texas, is Texas City. There they have refineries as far as the eye can see, along with several other chemical plants. Like many cities, Texas City has had its share of emergencies. Most recently on June 27th, when the Office of Emergency Management in Texas City declared a shelter-in-place order for its residents. This shelter-in-place was due to sulfur dioxide detection at Marathon Galveston Bay refinery. Marathon owns several plants in the area. When inhaled, sulfur dioxide can cause difficulty breathing or even cardiac problems. There is no antidote to sulfur dioxide exposure. To even see the shelter-in-place message, Texas City residents would have to log into social media, check government officials' accounts, or pre-register to Texas City's opt-in emergency alert system. With these limitations, it's unlikely that everyone got the message in time. According to Texas City's OEM manager, Joe Tumbleson, they also use emergency alert sirens. But many Texans like me are used to hearing those sirens for severe weather, and we tend to ignore them. Fenceline Watch, a local organization that advocates for individuals living near industry, went out to Texas City during the shelter-in-place.
What we need is a toxic alert system, very similar to an Amber Alert system, where our communities are notified as soon as an incident happens so that we're able to make the proper decisions for us and our families to keep our communities safe.
Texas City actually has access to a system almost exactly like the one Yvette describes. It's called IPAWS, or the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. You're probably most familiar with receiving these wireless alerts on your phone, but they also happen through the radio, TV, or even those digital billboards on the road.
If it was something like hydrogen fluoride or a different chemical that could be immediately deadly if it hits you, that's when we would probably end up pushing out an IPAWS message, which would cover most of the county.
Tumbleson also said that the shelter-in-place was out of precaution because they did notice elevated levels of sulfur dioxide in the area, but these levels were not deemed to be threatening. Even if IPAWS was used, FEMA notes that not all devices are capable of receiving these messages, or even when they are received, sometimes if you need a message in Spanish, it's a direct translation from English and it's difficult to understand. Marathon has had a couple of documented emergencies this year, including the sulfur dioxide leak in June, a chemical fire in May that resulted in a death, and an electrocution death in February. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, we can see that Marathon Petroleum here inside of their compliance history database has been in violation of the Clean Air Act, or the CAA here, for the past 12 quarters. You can see those numbers 1 through 12 here, and they're all inside of that red box. That red box means that they are polluting above the levels that the EPA allows for each quarter. These were recorded by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, which partners with the EPA in Texas. You can get into the numbers a little bit more here, so you can see the quarters of noncompliance at 12, with significant violations at 12, and then we see some government and formal enforcement actions in the past 5 years, and those are sitting at 10. These can be like notifications, emails, written warnings, things of that sort. So there's also formal enforcement actions in the past 5 years, and we can see there's been none of those. There's also been no penalties from formal enforcement actions in the past 5 years. Despite these violations in Texas City, Marathon Petroleum Corporation was still awarded EPA awards like the Energy Star Sustained Excellence Award in 2021, 2022, and 23. In a press release, Marathon stated that the award was for their, quote, energy efficiency and environmental compliance. Marathon's Galveston Bay refinery also had 4 OSHA violations in 2021 for hazardous energy, hazardous chemicals, and failure to comply with general requirements. These violations resulted in over $44,000 in fines. Marathon did not respond to my request for interview, but we do have one of the press releases that the company made, and it says, quote, the health and safety of our workers, responders, and community are our top priority. If you want more information on these events, you can look at our website for a timeline of the story. Texas City residents, like many residents in the United States, are able to opt into emergency alert systems that pertain to their city on their Office of Emergency Management's websites. For EHN, I'm Cami Farrell.